Imagine being held captive against your will. Scary thought, huh? It's a nightmare. And such was the case for our guest who's in the studio with us today. She is Ashley Robinson, and you are the subject of the book Unlikely Angel.
Yes.
Right? And also, which is now a movie called Captive. And thank you so much for joining us here on the Harvest Show. We appreciate it so much. Man, there is a lot of talk and hype and excitement about this movie that is hitting the theaters actually this weekend.
Yes.
Tell us your story as far as Captive goes. Take us there to where the movie is taking everybody.
Well, the movie actually starts with me being taken hostage by a man that escaped from the Atlanta courthouse 10.5 years ago. He killed a judge, a court reporter, another police officer, and a special agent later after that. And actually at that time in my life, I was actually captive to not only Brian Nichols, but was captive to a drug addiction. You know, I was raised in a Christian home. I went to Christian school, but as a teenager and as a young adult, I turned my back on my faith because I lost my first husband to murder, and he died in my arms. And you know, after that, I went on a very bad downward spiral into drugs. And so that night, not only was I taken hostage by Brian Nichols, but as I said, was fighting a drug addiction. And you know, many things happened during that 7 hours, but ultimately, Brian Nichols asked me if I had drugs in my apartment that night, and I did. And I gave them to him, and he asked me to use it with him. And you know, for me, it was as if God was asking me, do you want to use these drugs? Because if you do, then go ahead and use them, and I'm going to bring you home. But if you choose not to do them, I can give you a life that you could never imagine. And, you know, to be quite honest with you, a life of 5 minutes that was different than the life I was leading was well worth not doing those drugs. And I didn't know if it was going to be 5 minutes to live or 50 years to live. But I chose not to do the drugs. And after that, God really began to show me he was there the next 7 hours. And ultimately, I made it out of there alive.
Do you think in any way that this whole thing was, that God intended for it to happen for you this way, with Brian Nichols coming into your home, abducting you?
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult for me to face, you know, because 4 people did lose their lives that day. And it's, you know, of the 4 people that died, I should have been the one, you know, the lonely widow drug addict mom should have been actually the one deserving of death, as opposed to the 4 people that were well-respected, good people in our community. So it's hard to say that this night was orchestrated just for me to change, but I definitely think that God used it as a way for me to change, yes. I believe that if I would have chosen to do the drugs that night, I would have died. And, you know, to look back on it, maybe it was my last chance of God saying, change or I'm going to bring you home.
That's a powerful story. So with people going into the theaters now to see this crime drama, thriller film, what do you want them to leave after seeing the movie?
Well, I really want people to know that, you know, it's never too late to turn your life around. I want them to know that there's absolutely nothing we could do to make God not love us. You know, for a long time, I think I stayed addicted to drugs because I believed Satan's lies, and those lies were I had done too many bad things, that God didn't love me anymore. You know, the world tells me I have to look a certain way and act a certain way before I go to church or before I become successful or this or that, and that could be nothing further than the truth. God wanted my brokenness, because when I laid down my brokenness in my apartment that night, he changed my life, and he took my brokenness and made it to something beautiful that could further his kingdom and help his glory.
The man who held you captive, Brian Nichols. So what happened to him that particular day, and where is he now?
He is actually right now serving 4 life sentences plus hundreds of years on top of that. From what I've been told, his mother told me that he spent the last 10 years in solitary confinement and doesn't rarely come out of his cell. You know, I don't know where he is today spiritually. As we talked the 7 hours that I was held hostage, you know, he told me that he too was like me, fighting a spiritual warfare. Demons had gotten him, from what he said, he was fighting a demon. So I don't know where he is today spiritually, but my prayer would be that he is using his his second chance to further the kingdom of God. You know, people in prison need Jesus too. My family is a product of prison ministry, so I know that people in prison need Jesus too.
Do you ever think of contacting him, or are you allowed, or I know he's in solitary confinement, so perhaps he cannot receive any correspondence?
Well, I don't really know. I mean, I haven't had any pressing feelings to go visit him or anything like that. I do think of things every now and then, and I jot them down, things I would like to say to him, and maybe one day I'll send them in a letter, but as of right now, I don't have any plans to do that.
Did you think during that time when he was holding you captive that you were going to die?
Oh, I thought I was going to die the entire time. There was not one moment where I thought I was safe until I got in the car the next morning after he let me free and made it around the corner and called the police. Then I knew it was finally over.
Wow, wow. And it was just started off as a typical day. You were going about your way.
Yeah.
And he commits the crime at the courthouse, shoots 4 people. How did he find you? I mean, how did your paths cross?
Well, I just happened to be walking out of my apartment going to the store at that moment, and he was pulling up. I lived in a very big apartment complex, and I'd gone out to the store, and when I came back, I was only gone for 5 minutes, and when I came back, he was still waiting in the truck and followed me in the house and took me in gunpoint. Wow,
wow. And then, well, folks can see what happened to you and learn from what you went through by watching the movie Captive. Go to the shows and watch Captive, American crime drama thriller, and of course Ashley Robinson is the subject of that movie, but starring in it is David Oyelowo and also Kate Mara are the lead actors and actors in the movie. So we thank you so much,
thank you,
Ashley, for joining us here on The Harvest Show. And again, go and check out Captive.
Mommy.
Hey, baby girl.
I love you.
I love you too.
I'll send my prayers for you.
I hate this car.
I lost everything.
My husband's dead.
And they said I was an unfit mother. Took away my little girl.
Have you heard of this book? Help me.
You're late, Ashley. The lady dropped this off for you.
When I heard I had a son, I had to break out.
Breaking story right now. Police looking for this man.
Murder suspect Brian Nichols.
I want eyes in the sky. All choppers up now. Let's flush Nichols out.
My name is Ashley Smith. I'm a mother.
I don't trust you, Ashley. He's skin again, and I will have to kill you.
I need to see my daughter.
You're not going anywhere.
God, please help me.
You call me out upon.
What is that? What are you doing?
Just a book.
Read it to me.
You want to know why you were placed on this planet? You must begin with God. He expects you to make the most of what you have been given.
I haven't been given anything.
You have a son.
Christopher, it's your daddy. You're gonna hear some bad things about me. Whatever happens, I love you, little man.
The greatest tragedy is not death, but life without purpose.
Stand up! Could you forgive me?
I don't know, but maybe God can.